Streaming. Your event is starting. Hey, and welcome you guys to another wonderful, amazing special live stream on a fine Monday holiday, I believe, in most places in the States as well as here in Canada. It's been spending some family time. It's quiet time, and I thought, why not hop on YouTube Live to discuss all the wild and amazing and wonderful news that's coming out there, as well as answer questions and do a lot of stuff. Channel has been a little bit quiet lately as we've been investing again a lot more in the Justin and Greg side, but I also feel like I haven't had good tech stuff to really talk about. And in some ways that can be a good thing because you can get so caught up in gear and it can take you away from creating good stories. That can be a problem. I bought a Canon M100, which is the cheapest Canon mirrorless that they make, and took it on. We were on vacation last week, and you know what? It works fine. Like, you could create great stories with that. It's like $500 Canadian. It's probably even cheaper, like $399 in the US. Great video, great photos, great autofocus. You know, like overall, like if you need a camera to make something with, just buy that and go make something. Like that should not be stopping you. But every once in a while, it's also fun to talk about like serious gear, which is it's fun. And I've been dreaming about upping in my game and getting back into the full frame and trying to really, I don't know, do more to challenge my own creativity. The problem is it's expensive and there are no good options for what I want right now, which is what we're going to talk about here shortly. So, all right. Michael Tapple, Sony A6500 with a flip-out screen equals best camera ever. Yeah, we're gonna talk a little bit more about that anyway. Thanks for hopping the stream already, Michael. This is gonna be good. We're probably gonna let this play for a couple of minutes as people are joining here. I see people hopping on the stream. Say hi, you guys. I would love to say hi back to you. There's also, I think, typically on YouTube Live at this setting, there's about a 30-second delay. So sometimes when I say something, it takes a bit for the comments to come in because of it. But how does stream look? How does stream sound overall? Hopefully it's good. If you're watching this after the fact and you're like, what do you stream with? I put it all in the description. But there's a Elgato HD60 card here with the Canon M50 Sigma 18-35 on there. And I'm just using this mic setup because this typically seems to work quite well. Live control room. Is that where I am? That is where I am. Oh, yeah. Chat. Here we go. Public view, chat. Awesome. Anyway, happy Monday. Hope you guys are having a fantastic and wonderful day. We were in Glacier National Park, which is in Montana in the United States in the mountains. And man, is it nice. If you want to see a couple of photos, hop on my Instagram at justinrivas.com. At Justin Rivas. Wasn't spending a whole bunch of time creating stuff for the photos because I was trying to enjoy the vacation. And we've got young kids, and so it can be real busy. But it is crazy to see what is happening in the whole Canon shakeup. And some of this, I think, is predicated on the fact that Sony has been pushing everybody in the mirrorless department so much the last few years. Whereas before you kind of had this two-way shootout between Canon and Nikon, and primarily it started in photos, and then Canon started pushing the envelope on the video side with their 5D, well, I'd say the Mark III really started to take it seriously, and it kind of trickled down to the other things, and you had the 70D that became, the vlogging darling for a while, and then the 80D. But then Sony kind of swooped in here with some crazy video features for the price, and I would say the last big one that everybody's been talking about is a Sony A7 III, which for the money, the features that it has on there between the 120 frames per second and the steady shot and, 4K and, full frame and not really that much money, it's crazy to see what those guys are doing. And so it's nice to see people responding. And the one that kind of surprised me was this whole like Nikon mirrorless announcement that's going to drop here in, I don't know, 3 weeks or so. They have a date set for it and there's a countdown. I think it's about 3 weeks away, where I love Nikon for the photo side. I had a Nikon D800, which was a 36, I believe, megapixel like beast of a full frame camera, and I had all 2.8 glass, ultra wide, kind of mid range and telephoto, and I love taking photos with it. But the video features on it were just kind of lame, and the video didn't look that good, and that's where I ended up selling all that Nikon stuff, and I just moved right over to Panasonic for more of the video features. And then I've kind of been slowly craving my way to get back into full frame. And we recently did a $50 photo challenge, and there's a vlog over on Justin and Greg where we had a $50 budget to get a wardrobe, props, and a camera to do a photo shoot. And I managed to rent a camera for, I think I said 20 minutes, probably ended up being an hour, a Canon 5D Mark II with a 24-70 2.8. And just taking photos with full frame again, I was like, oh, I've missed this a ton. So the idea of there potentially being more mirrorless full frame options is so exciting to me, as well as just hopefully some better vlogging options that is going to be, yeah, is going to be good. Ignacio Fernandez, greetings from the Dominican Republic. Love your videos. Fun fact, my wife and I went on our honeymoon to the Dominican Republic. Beautiful, beautiful place. Love it. Absolutely love it. Let's break down some of these cameras and get the conversation going on this. So Nikon is apparently coming out with 2 full-frame mirrorless cameras. One is a higher megapixel count in the 40-something-ish range, and then a lower one in the 20-something megapixel range. What's interesting is they are saying that they're going to include 5-axis in-body stabilization, which I think every mirrorless camera should have. Now, some of the challenge is with mirrorless bodies is they're a little bit more compact, and a big full-frame sensor means you don't get as much motion as something like, even a crop sensor camera, or especially Panasonic. When they've got those small micro four thirds sensors, they get so much space to play with it. Their in-body image stabilization is better than absolutely anybody's. But when you're just trying to do some handheld video, having that true in-body stabilization where the sensor is moving is really, really nice. Especially, obviously, you're pairing like this, the 18 to 35 f1.8 from Sigma. No stabilization, but being able to have that on my A6500 made it so much nicer. And the fact that they're including that, and Canon has yet to do any camera with proper like in-body image stabilization. I'm curious to see what they do on their full-frame cameras. The autofocusing system on the Nikons is supposed to be very, very advanced. I'm going to guess that they are going to go to some kind of contrast plus phase detection system like Canon and Sony are using, so that they're able to kind of keep up on the video side. I'm sure it will have 4K and not be much of a crop factor. If anything, I think it's going to be a really, really good system on paper. And then I think it's going to take them a while to work through all the bugs of all the ways that they've kind of fallen behind. But they at least have been doing 4K. The Nikon D500 was a crop sensor 4K body that's now a couple years old. I think the D850 has it. And, they've at least been playing with 4K, I would say more so than Canon has been. And so we'll see what ends up coming out of that. But I'm really excited for that system, except for the fact that I don't think there's any chance that we're going to see any of those cameras have a flip-out selfie screen, which ruins it for me. Because when you're shooting video of yourself, I've tried to do it without a selfie screen, and it is so much more work and costs me so much more time that's the reason that I'm probably not going to end up picking it, which is a little bit too bad. Whereas there are rumors that you can watch in early September leading up to Photokina that we're going to see the new Sony A6700 and or the Sony A7S III. Now, those two are going to be exciting for, I think, a few reasons. I think we're going to get even slower slow motion, and we're going to get 4K 60 frames per second at least. And I pray that at least one of those cameras has a flip-out selfie-style screen, which the rumors say one of them will, and maybe both of them will. I don't know. Well, it'll remain to be seen, but I do understand the fact that putting a flip-out screen opens you up to a little bit more risk, where it is easier to break off that screen than to simply have, a tilting screen. Now, the thing is that Canon has been doing it for a long time, as well as Panasonic, and I personally, in all my use, have never, ever, ever broken one off. Like, it never even come close. Maybe it's gotten slightly looser, but if you treat your camera at least reasonably well, it's not an issue. Now, what I'm curious to see is if some of these cameras, what they will begin to do, because I personally, I would even take this, is rather than flipping out, if they would just begin to let them flip all the way up 90 degrees. There are many other ways to mount microphones, especially like with all the small rig cages that you can put onto the camera, that there are other places you can put a microphone than right in the hot shoe, which would be kind of handy. So it remains to be seen what will happen there, but Canon, I think, is... You know, the rumors it was going to be coming right away, and then the rumors pushed back and said, hey, we may not even see it this year, but they may announce that, hey, we've got a new one in development, a full-frame mirrorless camera, because they have to respond to the fact that Nikon may actually leapfrog them? Isn't that crazy with how far behind Nikon has been? Who knows? It's a wild, wild world, and I think Panasonic still may never actually give us proper, like, contrast plus phase detection, good autofocus, which would make them great for stuff. So... Chopper says, are you not advocating for the 6D Mark II anymore? I think right now, the 6D Mark II is the best, like, everyday vlogging camera that you can get, aside for, you know, a couple of things. I mean, it's a full-frame camera, so photo-wise, it's going to be good. I personally don't need, like, crazy high, like, 10, 12, 15 frames per second for photos. On the video side... For vlogging, you've got dual pixel autofocus, you've got an audio input jack, you've got a selfie screen, full frame, you can put some good lenses on it. The part that I still just struggle with is the fact that you are getting so much less value in that body than something like the A7 III, which now is more money because Canon has been dropping the price on the 6D Mark II, but the 6D Mark II gives you, I think, basically 30 megabit per second 1080p video if you're at 24 or 30 frames per second, which is a little bit low. Now, that being said, the video coming out of it looks good. Like, I'm perfectly happy with the video that comes out of it, but you're only getting 60 frames per second, which is fine. You don't get any in-body image stabilization, which is a little bit too bad, and no 4K. The other thing that I wish Canon would do that I don't think is that hard to do is give an aperture priority or a shutter speed priority video mode. They'll do it in photos, but what I want to be able to do is get a f4, probably image stabilized, you know, 16 to 35 lens, put it on there, and keep it at f4, but then have the shutter speed and the ISO adjust automatically so I can go indoors, outdoors, because I'm fine with the shutter speed ramping up. It's just, it's a lot more if you're always having to set that yourself. But I want it to stick at f4 for that cinematic look. Like, I will trade a high shutter speed for a blurry background. And either you rock full manual, which is fine to do, but when you're moving from really bright to really dark situations, you then are having to change your shutter speed and potentially your ISO because... you know, you're moving in and out that way, which maybe isn't the end of the world. But if you put it in any kind of, like, automatic mode, like, it just doesn't always do things smartly. Like, even the M50, you put in automatic, the ultra-wide-angle lens is f4 to 5.6. It puts it to f5.6 on the widest setting. Not f4. It could, but it puts it at 5.6 and then is cranking up the ISO on the automatic setting, even though it could be a full stop less. Anyway, just some silly things there. So I would like for them to do that. They haven't done that yet. Sony does that. Panasonic does that. They have all those modes, and Canon won't do it. And I think that that's a fairly easy thing to fix. But the 6D Mark II, if I was going to have to buy a full-frame vlogging camera, well, it's kind of the only option. It is the only full-frame camera with good autofocus, a selfie screen, audio input jack. So... Yeah, I think about every once in a while getting an A7 III with a small HD screen on top that you can flip around, but it's just so much work. And the 6D Mark II as well, is like, it's hefty. Like, it is still a big body, and the glass is going to be big, whereas mirrorless cameras can be a lot more compact. So anyway, it's interesting. Emery Pectaz. Oh, nice office update, Justin. Thank you. I could change the colors of the lights, but, you know, I've been playing around with some, like, different options here, and we could do, like, do purple for a little bit, see what happens there. But and mostly there's just more and more stuff that constantly fills up the background. Daniel Schiffer says, love the Golden Knights vlogs. Thanks, Daniel. That was a wild and crazy year. If you didn't hear the story, we were doing a bunch of videos and we somehow got connected with the Golden Knights, which are a new NHL hockey team, the newest one. They were brand new this year and had a crazy Cinderella story. And they're from Las Vegas, the entertainment capital of the world. the craziest part is they went down 3-1 in the series, and then Greg, myself, we made a kind of a pump-up video that, hey, it's not over yet. And the video was apparently so powerful that the team used it as the intro to game number 5, which if you're not familiar with the Golden Knights intros and the theatrics they put on, it's crazy. Entertainment capital of the world. They could have called Britney Spears, they could have called Cher, they could have called the Backstreet Boys. Instead, Justin and Greg were leading the charge, which is just wild and sheer insanity, but such a fun season. And that entire video was actually shot right here in the studio in Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada on, what did I shoot that on? The M50. Yeah, I think so. Was it the A6500? It might have been the A6500. But like basic gear, I shot it in 4K and it played on the Nitron in Vegas, the last game. The players even watched in the dressing room before going on the ice to get themselves pumped up. So that was awesome. After Aleem says, what's your take on Canon M50? M50 is the camera that I'm shooting with right now and is my everyday vlogging camera. And it's the best camera that I've used in a long time for the sake of it just being easy. The video looks good, and it works. It's compact. It's fairly rugged. We wiped out on one wheels a whole bunch of times. I dropped it like 3 times, twice on the pavement. No problems. I now have a metal cage for it, a small rig, which would have helped, but I didn't have it at the time. Fairly inexpensive. I think it's like it could be the best all-around camera that Canon makes, like when you take price into consideration. But if you just need a camera to tell stories with, I don't know that you can beat the Canon M50. It is awesome. Things I wish that Canon would do would be give us like a proper like 5-axis in-body stabilization. Who knows if they will do that or not. It has digital IS, which is fine. We need some more lenses for it. That will come, I think, in time. And other than that, I wish the 120 frames per second was actually like proper, not the 720p where you don't get autofocus and you don't get in-body stabilization. That is just pure silliness. The 4K on it, honestly, I love that it has 4K. I don't use it in like everyday out there shooting, but for setting up in the office here, there are lots of times where you can put it in 4K, it crops in, you don't care because you can just back up the tripod, put it in auto or manual focus, and it looks fantastic. So that's just like a bonus feature, plus it does 4K time lapses. Anyway, I'm big proponent of the M50, as you've maybe seen here or on Kinotika with Dave Altizer or Brandon Washington's channel. Both of those guys, both of them bought M50s after I came out and said it was the best camera. And they're like, nah, and then they bought them. They both have one, and they both love it. So M50 is a great camera. I just, at some point, want to go to a full-frame mirrorless vlogging camera, but we'll see if I get there. Sam N, I just bought a A6500. Now I'm reading A6700. Damn, haha. Yeah, welcome to the camera world. I actually sold my A6500. Not because it's not a great camera. It's absolutely a great camera if you're on the other side of it. But when you're in front of it all the time, not having the selfie screen meant that I was just taking the M50 over the A6500, and it would sit most of the time. But I love 120 frames per second with the steady shot, the in-body image stabilization, with great autofocus rolling together. I throw the Sigma 18-35 on it. It is just a B-roll machine, other than you can't use the audio with this lens because it grinds too loud. But A6500 is still a great camera. Who knows what's going to happen with the A6700, but I think you may see an announcement about it in September, although it could just be the A7S III and not the 6700. But honestly, you guys, the worst thing you can do is not buy a camera because you've heard about the new one. Because what's going to happen is it may get announced in September, but you may not be able to get your hands on it until January, and then you're going to give up months of time of creating. So do not let that hold you back. Buy the camera, start creating with it. At worst, you might lose a few $100. The vlogging and all the videos I made on the A6500, I was fairly hard on it in the sense it still worked great. Everything was perfect on it, other than like the buttons were starting to, like, some of the text was wearing off and different things. And so I lost some money on it, but it's going to somebody who's using it a lot more now, and they're very, very happy with it. So 6500 is a great camera. Get the EOS HD colors for it. It will make your skin tones less pink and look a little bit more Canon-esque. But that is an absolutely the best $20 you will spend for that camera. But it's a beast. Absolutely a beast. Freya Fox TV says, M50 I've been using a lot. Low light is struggles. Absolutely. That's actually something I'm massively, not massively, but disappointed in. The M50 has this new Digic 8 processor from Canon, the most powerful processor they've put in. And the low light should just be better. Like I feel like there's no excuse for how much worse the low light is on it than my A6500, which was older, similar sensor size within like fragments of each other. And the low light on it, like once you get up over like ISO 3200, like, ugh, it's so grainy and gross. And that's why I'd like some more lenses where we could get some a wider angle, low aperture. Low aperture is the right word. Like I would love to see Sigma do something like their 16mm f1.4 for the M50. I think that would be awesome. It still might be a little bit tight, but you could absolutely vlog with that, and you would just be getting so much better low light performance. And yes, you can use adapters and all those different things. But Sigma, that's an easy thing to do. Make an M mount Sigma 16mm f1.4. And what I would really love to see somebody do is maybe Rokinon will get there or somebody else, is a 12mm f2 autofocus. That would be sick. It's going to come. Paul Talon says, I recall you tried the Canon SL2 a while back. Even though it's a crop body, how would you rate it for value versus a Sony mirrorless or even a 6D Mark II? The SL2 for starting out is, well, here's the thing, is I would say it is the absolute best value. And some of that actually comes out of how cheap the lenses you get are as well. Like you can get an SL2 and then you can add the 10 to 18mm f4.5 to 5.6 and a 50mm f1.8, which are two fantastic lenses for creating all sorts of things. And you can get that like under $1,000, which is awesome. Absolutely awesome. Now, the M50 is everything the SL2 is, plus you get digital IS, 4K time lapses, and a smaller body, which is nice, but then you don't have as many lenses